In 1961, John F. Kennedy, before he took the oath of office as president, spoke to the Massachusetts legislature. And Kennedy spoke about the nature of leadership that we sent to Beacon Hill in Boston and Capitol Hill in Washington. And in the years since then, we have continued to send remarkable people or have remarkable people seek office in Boston. 1983 was one of the most interesting and contentious mayor's races in the city's history, as about a dozen candidates initially sought the post and spent about a year campaigning around the city at neighborhood meetings, at house parties. These candidates really engaged with one another and the voters. It's very difficult in Boston politics not to engage directly with voters. And in the runoff, Ray Flynn from South Boston, state rep, former city councilor, was one of the candidates against Mel King, state rep from the South End. And Flynn and King both represented a particular constituency, that is a working class constituency, the Boston of the neighborhoods as opposed to the Boston of the downtown interests. And Flynn was elected mayor. Mel King had a long career as a state rep and as a community organizer, community activist. And Flynn's administration really did focus on Boston's neighborhoods, the strengths of the neighborhoods, and making Boston a livable city. Ray Flynn was appointed ambassador to the Vatican by President Clinton in 1993 and left Boston, and Tom Menino, city councilor from Hyde Park, who had just been elevated to president of the city council, became the acting mayor, and again, in a contentious, or I should say contested election with about a dozen candidates, ultimately Tom Menino defeated Jim Brett, state senator from Dorchester, a very able man who since has become the head of the New England Council. And Tom Menino served as mayor of Boston longer than any other individual, 20 years. Again, with a focus on making Boston a livable city, but also a focus on developing a new Boston, yet another new Boston, really a hallmark of the Menino years, as each mayor of Boston tries to build upon the legacy left by his predecessor. William Bolger, president of the University of Massachusetts for 8 years, had been president of the Massachusetts State Senate for about 18 years, state senator from South Boston, and in many ways, creator of an institution, the St. Patrick's Day Roast every year, where politicians get together. And before the event was televised, it was said that this was the one day when politicians say what they really think about themselves and about one another. And reading the jokes from the St. Patrick's Day breakfast every year is like reading the jokes from ancient Mesopotamia. I guess something is lost in the translation. But if you know the characters, they can be quite funny. And I won't mention any names at this particular moment. Actually, there was a case with Elliot Richardson, who had been Attorney General in the Nixon administration and became something of a hero for resigning rather than firing the special prosecutor in 1973. And Richardson came home and was anticipating running for governor. And at the St. Patrick's Day breakfast, President Bolger produced a Boston newspaper with the headline, "Vote for L. He's better than you are." That pretty much ended Richardson's campaign, as he was seen as a highbrow wasp. And afterwards, after the election, Richardson called Bolger to ask if Bolger would appear at a fundraiser to help him retire his campaign debt. And Elliot Richardson did mention that unfortunate headline, which seemed to squelch his attempt at electoral victory. So, men and women of judgment, integrity, dedication, and courage continue to enter in public life in Boston and in Massachusetts, and often aspire to higher office as well. It is astonishing, though Massachusetts is not the largest of states, it still generates political leaders who offer their services to the country as a whole. That is, I don't think you can be elected to the city council in Boston or as a state rep from Boston without anticipating that higher office is going to beckon. So our political leaders continue to go to the people of the rest of the country offering themselves, and the people of the rest of the country have other ideas. What more can we say?